Hey everybody, welcome. I hope that you've had a really good week so far. I'm still kind of wanting it to be fall. And I don't know if you guys can see behind me, but we got some new cool kind of Halloween-y stuff for the kitchen. And there's adobe up there. So we've gotten a couple of really good fun things around. So I'm ready for it to be cool. Right now, not so much. So we've got the air conditioning on. And I'm still starting to get into my pumpkin latte phase of life. So today's live is sponsored by GoWise, and you can go see their information at GoWiseUSA.com. And you may remember that's one of the air fryers, the big red air fryer, extra large. GoWise makes that. And they've also sent me an 8-quart multi-cooker that has a pressure cooker. And this time they sent me this really cool blender that I've been thinking about different ideas of what I can do. So today I'm going to be showing you a couple of things. If you don't have this exact blender, there are other ways you can make it. But I think you're going to like this blender. And let me just show you. This is just part of it. One of the things that I think you're really, really going to like is this is glass and not plastic. So that's kind of a cool thing right there. And it is a high power blender. And we're going to see it has a lot of different preset settings. So it's kind of got, like when I made my smoothie this morning, I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to use the tamper, and that was pretty cool. So I thought the first thing I might do is make like a pumpkin spice Frappuccino, since I would like another one. And if you guys have some questions about that, you could totally make, if you don't do coffee, you could totally make this without coffee. You can make it with tea. You can make it just with milk and make kind of like a shake sort of thing with it. And one thing I did forget to grab, when I make my shakes, I use just a pinch of xanthan gum. Like for real, this thing of xanthan gum I've had for years, possibly over 5 years. I think I got it maybe right when I moved into the house. And I'm just going to use a pinch. Hey, Snap Vegan, good to see you as always. Are you a pumpkin spice yay or nay person? And also, you could do this with any creamer or anything that you want to make. But this is just one of my favorite things, and we're going to clean the blender in between. So the first thing I'm going to do is pour in some coffee, and this is just some coffee concentrate that I made by cold brewing it in a French press overnight and pressing it. And then I was trying to decide, am I going to make milk? You can make milk right now by putting cashews or pecans in here, but let me go ahead and put regular milk. Oh, another pumpkin spice fan. I really like these with soy milk. So I find it's just thicker and a little bit nicer mouthfeel. So I put some coffee in there. Then I put the milk till it's as light as I want it to be, because I like my coffee pretty light. And then this is the delicious, let me see if I can get a side view too, delicious pumpkin spice syrup that I made. It's really kind of more of a thick sauce, but it has, this version has maple syrup, pumpkin, canned coconut milk, spices, and a little bit of molasses and a little bit of brown sugar. And that recipe you're going to find on plantbasedinstantpot.com. So I'm going to go ahead, and since I'm making this big, I'm putting probably about 4 tablespoons. But you would just put it to where it's exactly the way that you like it, and that's all. So there's no pressure to use a lot or not a lot. And so let's change over here where you can kind of see the really cool. So also, this is their heated blender. So they have a couple of blenders, and only the heated blender has that glass jar as well. I'm going to take just a pinch of xanthan gum. And sometimes I'll put 2 pinches. What this does, and you can use pectin, and you can even use ground chia seeds to do this, is it helps make everything kind of stay together with the ice. And so one thing I do too, because the xanthan gum can sometimes just stick to the side, is I take my spoon, and what I'm doing right now is just kind of getting it a little wet so it doesn't just all stick to the side. Okay. Now here's something probably before. This lid, so what happens is, and I'll show you this in a minute too, this goes into the base differently than other blenders because actually it heats in the blender not from the speed of the blades, but because there's a heating element. Now that means you can't put this in water. You can't sit it in the sink. So a lot of times I'll take my other blender and I'll just sit it in the sink. This one you would need to clean and make sure the bottom part doesn't touch. Also, it's kind of a cool safety feature. Let me see if I can show you this way. Is this fits on, yeah, nope. I'm doing it backwards so it's harder for me. Sorry guys. And once this clicks in here, you could hear it, right? So that's kind of cool too. And that's a really nice safety feature, I think. So here we go over here. And if you guys have some questions, no, that's not the $59 blender on Amazon. Let me find, I think it's $1.99. And I'll find it and put the link in for you right now. Amazon. Here, I guess I could at least show you me watching this, huh? And if you have some other questions while I'm looking this up, totally ask me. Even if you want to know where I got my cool doggy. Anybody else ready for Halloween? And does anybody else have this GoWise blender too? And now I'm going back to looking it up. Here we go. It's the Heating High-Speed Professional Blender 2.0 horsepower, 1400 watt base with 6 blending presets, a 59-ounce glass pitcher, and a 28-page recipe book. And yeah, I am reading exactly from that. So let me get this link, and I will go back to Facebook really quick and put that in. Okay, so they're 14.5. Let me go. So I'm seeing that the 1450 watt is on sale for $59. So let me go look at that too. I know that Julie Hassan used one of the other blenders, and I got the cool. Oh yeah, it totally is here. I'll give you that one too. One of the things I like about GoWise a lot is I find that it's pretty high quality products at a little bit less of a price than you pay for some of the other ones. So even though this is not the one that we are looking at, I'm going to put this in too because Snap Vegan, oh, Snap Vegan already did it. Woo! You're just on top, oh, you're on top of it, I think. Did you get both of them? Okay. And eventually we'll cook. It will be very exciting. So this is GoWise on sale today. That's so if you're looking for a blender, either one of these would be awesome. So that's what I'm saying. Okay, awesome. There we go. So we got some information about that. And back to my Frappuccino, Falpuccino, Cheapuccino. Anybody got a good name? Okay, so let's go here. And so the first thing I'm going to do, this actually won't even turn on if this lid is not on properly. So know that. It has a whole bunch of things. So it has like pulse, making a frozen treat, various presets, and we're going to use one of those. You can keep it warm, just like you would keep things warm in your Instant Pot. You can do things manually and change it. That's the clean button. You can change the blade speed. The smoothie is what we're going to use for this coffee. The frozen treat is more like you see it's in an ice cream cone. And you can chop. So pulse, you hold and it just starts. See, and it'll stop. And there are other ways to do this, but for this, I just want it mixed a little. Okay, so next, I'm going to go ahead and put the ice in here. And let me show you this. So this is the base, and it's really heavy. And this is where I was saying something plugs in, and that's what goes into, and this, look how heavy duty that is. So I feel pretty awesome about this. So I'm going to turn this and lift it. And there's like 3 different sealers, rubber gaskets, I guess you would say there. And so it really keeps everything in there quite nicely. Okay, so now I'm going to put some ice. I always used crushed ice when I'm making these. But you probably don't have to with a powerful blender like this. So I'm going to click that on. And then I'm going to put this down in here. Yeah, the one that's on sale does not have the heating feature. It's only this one with the glass. And that's really good because you don't want to get all, this is really safe and it's thick and it's not going to leach any chemicals off onto things. So I really like this the best. If you're doing smoothies and things like that where you're not heating things up, I think anything goes. A lot of other brands also have plastic containers and they seem to work fine. But the 2 things that I think are really special about this is the glass and the heating element. Okay, so I'm going to turn you here for a second. Okay, so I'm going to click Start. Then I'm going to click Smoothie. And then I click it one more time, I think. Speeds on its own. And then it also beeps to let me know it's done. And if it's thick enough or not is probably going to depend on how much ice I put in there. It's fairly thick. And let me show you from over here. This is fairly thick, but it could be a lot thicker. So I'm going to put some more ice in there. Okay, so I'm adding more ice, and this can get too thick because that's what happens sometimes when you're like me and you like things as thick as humanly possible. So again, I'm going to put this on here, and I'll show you the buttons. So on, smoothie, and then on. Okay, this looks a lot better to me. So I like it super, super icy. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. And then I'm going to kind of pour this off to the side, some in my cup and some to the side, so that I can show you how we wash it. And then we're going to actually make soup. Isn't that crazy that you can make soup from scratch? And so it's not like the Vitamix. So when we're making soup from scratch, it's not just whirling it up till it's hot. It's actually got a heating element in there. And that's what I think is super cool. And so see how thick that is? I'm making a big old mess, but this is going to be so good. I made one this morning too. I'm sure you can't tell I've had caffeine. So for now, I'm just going to get some of the rest of that out. And just like any other high-powered blender that you have, you're going to be careful. Some of the edges on these are sharp and some are not. But so I would never recommend sticking your hand in here because there are some blades that are sharp. Can you see? I don't know if you can see the serrated edges or not. Okay. So I'm going to put a little bit of water. Okay. And put this back on. Oh, no, before we do that, I'm going to put like a drop or two of just regular dishwashing detergent. Okay, so let's go back over to here again so you can kind of see. You can see my big mess too, so let me get a paper towel to clean up some of that. Okay, so that's sort of cleaner. All right, so again, we're going to hit start so we can see all the things. This was clean, right? And hit that. Hit start. Over. I know you're glad about that. So it's pretty clean though. The only thing I would say is just make sure that you wipe around this edge, because as you can probably, I think you can see here, but you probably see here a little bit better. There's just a little bit of film. But everything else is off pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and pour this in the sink and just rinse out a little bit without getting the bottom wet. And then we're going to make our next yummy thing. So you can see, again, so the bottom of the blender goes on that plug I showed you earlier. And that's why we don't want to get any water on the base at all. And so the water that's coming off to the side, that's from the outside a little bit. And I'm just going to wipe down any of the places that look like it didn't quite get there as far as cleaning. And it really cleans almost everything but just the edge where the lid already is on. And I think it is a very, very heavy pitcher. The glass itself is quite thick that you guys can see, and the base is decently heavy too. So it's definitely a heavy duty blender that I like. Now, what probably wouldn't happen is if you didn't futz with it as much as I did. Like I take my lid off, I do some more, I take my lid off, I do some more, and that gets this part up here a little more dirty. If you just go with it, you probably wouldn't even have to wipe off the top like I'm doing. So the next thing I'm going to make is we're going to make some cream of tomato soup, obviously with no cream. This is a recipe that's on healthyslowcooking.com, so if you look up tomato soup, you'll find it. I'm doing half a recipe. The way I do the soup on the blog, yes, you totally can opt not to heat. So like the smoothie setting and just doing the pulses or the chop, you can chop veggies in it. So there's other things you can do that don't heat it at all. They actually do have like a DIY milk setting that does heat. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes because I made an experimental creamer I want to show you. And it was very interesting. So I definitely want to play some more because the DIY milk heats it, then blends it. Heats it and then blends it until you feel it's good. But yeah, you don't have to heat in it. It's only an optional thing. And another reason that I wanted to show this to you guys around this time of the year is that I think if you have some kids going off to college, this could be really good because they can make smoothies and soup. So they'd have a little more options of things to do. And it doesn't take up that much space compared to my 70 bazillion other appliances. So with the soup that I make, you just use canned organic tomatoes. You probably could use fresh tomatoes as well. So if you have a glut of them. And so I'm doing half a recipe. So usually I do diced tomatoes and some whole tomatoes. You could do it either way. It's just how I learned how to make tomato soup a bazillion years ago. So I still do it today. And so instead of using cream, and this kind of comes from the oatmeal book, Outrageous Oatmeals, is that we're going to use some rolled oats and some cashews. And I've got a little basil and garlic to kind of flavor it up a little bit. You could use fresh basil too. I probably would put fresh basil in near the end since we are going to heat this up. So typically I've done this both in the Instant Pot and the slow cooker so that we kind of cook the nuts so it's easier to make it kind of creamy and go together. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And then we're going to put some water in there too. And the reason we're putting water instead of non-dairy milk is because we're making our own non-dairy milk at the same time that we're making the soup. And I really love this. Now, if you don't do cashews at all, you could just do a little more oats. And if you wanted to, you could not do that and just put some non-dairy milk in here. But this oats is the cheapest non-dairy milk that you can make, and especially rolled oats. And so I like using that a lot. Okay, so we'll turn back to this. Okay, so we're going to turn this on. And then you can see these across here. So we're going to go to preset. First thing is DIY milk. Second is soup. So that's what we're going to do. And this probably is going to take a little while because it's going to be heating. And you're going to see the temperature start to raise eventually. So some of the stuff it's not instant like the Instant Pot. And can you see my kitty cleaning herself over in the corner? She wants to make sure that she's super comfortable around all of y'all. And so we'll see things counting down. So it's getting the heat up. And that's one thing that you'll notice with all the different presets. And with this preset in particular, the time starts counting up, and the contents will heat until it reaches a boil. And you can sort of see that over here. Can you guys see that some of this is starting to move? Just ever so slightly. And I don't know if you can hear it yet, but you're going to see it start to get hot. And it's at 91 degrees right now, it's telling me. And it has a really nice little manual that I like a lot. And it talks about all the different presets. So there's like frozen treat, smoothie, DIY milk, soup, dips, baby foods. Oh, hi Mary. This is a GoWise blender that's super awesome. And let me give you the proper name for it. It's the High Performance Professional Heating Blender. So it's a little bit different than some of the other blenders because of this heating element. Also, it has a really nice, that's a good point, Snap Vegan. We did put the link to this for Amazon, and you can also find out more about it at GoWiseUSA.com. So it's GOWISE.com. And I don't know, you can't see it from the top. You know how things kind of bubble up a little bit as it's getting more hot? That's what's going on here. And I'm sorry, we really are basically watching stuff boil right now. So if you have some questions, either about the blender or about cooking or fall, you can kind of start seeing it here. Can you guys see it? And that's from the heat. So it's kind of starting to simmer and move the oats around. And you're going to see that a little bit more because obviously 116 is not up to boiling yet. And so some of the things you can do, and actually I guess I could talk about the caramel while you're watching water boil, or soup boil, is so what I did is I used the DIY milk setting. Yeah, the oats move, it's kind of cool, but we really are kind of like doing the cooking equivalent of watching paint dry. But it'll get there. So we'll look at this. So I made this really creamy creamer. And it was all an experiment. So I only used oats and dates and water. And then in the end, I put in a little bit of vanilla. The recipe is on healthyslowcooking.com. And if you look up tomato soup, you will find it. And yes, you can make it all different ways. You can make it in a multi-cooker, you could make it on the stove, you can make it in your slow cooker, or you can make it in your heated blender. And today's live is sponsored by GoWiseUSA.com, and so that's why we're talking so much about their blender. Plus, it's been really fun playing with it. I've enjoyed it a lot. And it's kind of funny because I always catch myself kind of we'll watch for the Instant Pot to come up to pressure. Now we're caught in this one a little bit. But so with this creamer, and I think you might be able to see a little bit better from this angle. So again, this is some coffee that I put some of it in, just so you could see that actually it didn't really break apart very much at all. Thanks, Snap Vegan. Yes, many thanks to GoWise. And also many thanks to GoWise for letting me try out all their new cool products, too. That is awesome. And that way I can tell you guys which ones I really like the best. And the GoWise Extra Large Air Fryer is my go-to air fryer. So I just think they're an amazing company. Okay, so what's interesting is, so as this was cooking, I only did a little bit in here, so it was like this is about half of what I made, and it was just rolled oats and dates. And so the DIY milk goes from kind of boil to not a boil and blending. Boil, so it's kind of still going very slowly. So at the end, I did blend up a little extra. So I started out probably with half the amount of water. So I think, actually, I wrote it down over here. Yeah, I did. I used like 1 cup of water and a half a cup of oats and a 1/4 cup of dates. And you might want to do a half a cup of dates if you like your creamer very sweet, because this is not super sweet. And so basically, it kind of cooked into oatmeal and kept blending. And that's what really gives it this thickness that often with creamers we're looking at thickeners, right? Well, oat is a natural thickener, and Oatly is such a cool new to us in the USA creamer, and we're finding it at a lot of coffee shops. And I think I even saw it at Target recently, which is really pretty cool. Oh, and you have the GoWise air fryer, Mary? Yeah, they're really awesome. I like the extra. I have the smaller one, and I like it a lot too. The large one, the extra large one, is even larger than the Philips extra large, and it's much less expensive. And for any of these big appliance purchases, you can always look at Amazon. They have sales all the time. And then in the warehouse deals, sometimes you will find some things that can be very cool. And I've seen some GoWise there. I've actually bought a GoWise extra large air fryer for my friend Dawn. So what I wanted to see is if this was just going to be mushy like oatmeal. And it did for a few minutes. So if you're making this or trying it, and I'm going to do a few more iterations of this creamer, and then I'm going to post it up because you would be able to do it many different ways. But I just love how creamy it is. I didn't strain anything. I just kept blending. And I think that's pretty awesome. And so when I pour it into here, we're up to 145 degrees, in case you were wondering. And you can, let's see, can you see it here? No. There's just barely a little bit of steaminess coming out around the top. And you can see the water beating up. Okay, so I've already put some in here. And because it was a while ago, some of it will settle in the bottom, just like any other creamer. And when you first put it in, you're going to see these little strings of cream, right? Because it's very thick. But as you mix it up, it incorporates really pretty well. I don't think any creamer really incorporates perfectly. But that was kind of my test. I really wanted to find... one of the reasons it doesn't lighten is because it's kind of the same color. So this is not a white, it's a brown because of the dates. I think it will lighten it up a little bit more. Like if I'm tasting this, it definitely tastes like it has creamer in it. And again, I said this was experimental, so I can't promise you what all is going to happen. But I may try one with some sugar as well. I know a lot of you are not doing sugar, oil, or salt, so that's kind of why I want to try and get a little bit of both sides of the track as far as the creamer goes. And I have quite a few that have sugar, and I really love this consistency. And so what happened is after I made it in here in the DIY milk setting, then what I did is I added more water and a little vanilla after it wasn't so hot, because I wanted to not have the vanilla cooked as much. I'd rather have it fresher in a creamer like this so I can use less, because vanilla is so expensive right now. And we're going. So do you guys have, do you have any other coffee creamer questions too? Because I have quite a few. So I just did the pumpkin spice, a pumpkin spice creamer on, and actually I'm going to go for just a second. That's my dog wanting inside. Buddy. He's been such a good boy. Both the dogs have been really good. But it's getting a little hot out there, so I think he's like ready to come in. Okay. And this is still heating. And one of the things you could do, okay, here we go. Where can you find the soup recipe? On healthyslowcooking.com. There's both a slow cooker, Instant Pot, and I think stovetop version as well. And one of the things we could even do while this is going is we could, let's see if it won't let me. Nope, it won't let me. I was going to say we could blend a little bit, because like with the milk setting, what I found out is that heating and blending kind of all worked really well together. And this could take a little bit longer. So some of the other creamers I was getting ready to tell you about. So on plantbasedinstantpot.com, I just put up my new Instant Pot pumpkin spice syrup / sauce. And that's what I made this cold iced coffee with in the blender. using the smoothie setting. And it's really thick and yummy. So in that, I used maple syrup, a little bit of molasses, and an optional little bit of brown sugar and different spices. So you can get that on plantbasedinstantpot.com. On healthyslowcooking.com, I've got a lot of creamers. I have like an oat coconut creamer. I have an apple spice creamer. I think I have a pumpkin spice creamer that's really, so pumpkin spice things, sometimes they're pumpkin and spices. Sometimes it's just a pumpkin pie spice blend. So I have a creamer that's just the pumpkin pie spices without pumpkin, because some people don't like pumpkin in their beverages. I am not that person. But there's quite a few creamers over there too. And if you're interested, I know I've already gotten a request to do a vegan gingerbread latte syrup and a white chocolate syrup. And I'm going to give those a go as well. There is a vegan white hot chocolate on healthyslowcooking.com, and it does use things like, it uses some oats to thicken it up. You can't really have an oil-free white chocolate anything. With the white chocolate, it's kind of the fat of the cocoa bean. And so that is what gives you the flavor. So I don't see a way that I can really make an oil-free one. But the way I do it is you kind of, it works a lot like the soup. You've got some nuts, you've got some grains, you've got some flavors. And I believe I use vanilla bean in there. And of course, as expensive as vanilla is now, you could use vanilla extract instead. And for the same way this makes it creamy and thick, cooking all that together makes it creamy and thick as well. If cashews, pumpkin pie spice, and soy milk would make a good creamer. Mary, if you go to the search thing that's going to be on the sidebar, so you see the menu up at the top, and then there'll be an ad in the corner, and go under that ad. It could be long ad or short ad. There's a search. If you just put in tomato soup, either that, or I can put up the recipe once, or the link to the recipe once we're done, or once we get impatient, which could be soon, right? So let me go ahead and try and find it for you, and I will. Yes, it's the creamy tomato soup. Did you find it, Mary? Let me find it here, and so I can tell you a little more about that specific recipe as well. Yes, it's a vegan Instant Pot with slow cooker instructions. And so basically the exact, it's really half of everything that I've done. And there's all three methods: an Instant Pot method, a slow cooker method, and a stovetop method. And let me look up the white chocolate too, because I think that would be, I haven't made it in a long time. And so it does have cacao, raw organic cacao butter, which is why it can't be oil-free. I'm going to do some oil-free versions of everything else. And I'm using, let me see, get down to the recipe. I'm using cashews and almonds and oats and dates to make the milk base. And so, and that's something else to think about. Let's see if I can get my comments. Okay, thanks, Cheryl. Thanks for putting that up there. Okay. So I'm glad I made the smoothie, so we're not only waiting for this. So what questions? Mary, Snap Vegan, there's quite a few of everybody on there. Do you have any questions either about blending things, coffee creamers? I'm going to go back to Snap Vegan's question. If cashews, pumpkin spice And soy milk would make a good creamer, and I think it could. So one of the things that's different between a milk and a creamer is how thick it is. And standing up in a coffee, it needs that extra thickness. So I often do 2 to 3 times as much of the base ingredient to the amount of water than I would for a milk. So for a milk, I might use 1/4 to 1/2 cup of cashews for 4 cups of milk, but I might use that for maybe even 1. And what you have to do is kind of play with it when you're trying to experiment with it. So you want it to be thick enough to stand up, and it has to be super, super, super smooth. And that's going to be one of the things that's very, very important. So Snap Vegan, have you, or anyone else, have you guys made creamers who are on here? Anybody? And I think what I'm going to do for just a minute to show you this is, with cashews and oats, it's not going to need to be heated up all the way to blend well. So I think we might be able to shortcut this a little bit. Normally, we would not shortcut this to make the soup because it's going to be perfect. So I'm going to turn this off. And I'm going to pulse this up a little bit. You guys, I wish you could smell it. Even just as it's whirling together, you really smell the basil. And see how it's getting super creamy? Okay, so this will kind of give you the same idea. I'm kind of fast forwarding. It's warm. It's probably warm enough to eat, honestly, but we might let it go a little longer. So what I normally would do if I was making this soup, I would just kind of walk away and do some other things as it's heating up to boiling. And with this, if I was using something like almonds in here instead of cashews, it would need to come to the full boil so it can get softer. And Mary made the pumpkin spice that I made. She liked it mixed into a cup of almond milk heated. Ooh, that'd be good. And she hasn't tried the cold coffee yet. It's hot. In hot coffee, it was a nice flavor, but I like a lighter colored coffee. Yeah, and you could always, like, I use in that one, and she's talking about the recipe on plantbasedinstantpot.com. I use a can of pumpkin puree and a can of full-fat coconut milk. And so you could go and use 2 cans of full-fat coconut milk or a can of full-fat coconut milk, and then maybe another cup to a cup and a half of whatever your favorite non-dairy milk is. Or again, you can kind of make non-dairy milk while you're doing it and go ahead and throw in some cashews or some oats and blend it because it all gets blended up together anyhow. And Snap Vegan tried an almond creamer, but it was a fail. Was it a store-bought almond creamer, or was it one that you made? And I'll wait to hear this. Yeah, and I like my coffee really, really light, too. So I often end up with more than the 2 tablespoons of a serving. And actually, this is really warm. So you can kind of see, I'm going to pour a bowl out. You can even see on this how light colored it is. Now, again, if I cooked it a little longer and blended it a little longer, it would be even smoother than this. Let me try and get that off. But it still tastes really good. You tried to make, so Snap Vegan tried to make it herself. And so this is so, even now, even though this isn't all the way, exactly the way it would be, And with oats, I find you see a little bit of the oat bits. Let me see if you can see that. Maybe not. Nope, that's worse. So there's just some little teeny tiny, like microscopic pieces almost. Snap Vegan, with your almond creamer, tell me what went on and maybe we can troubleshoot it. Did it break up in the water more? Or when you put it into coffee, did it kind of break apart? And what other ingredients did you use? I will say I have found that having some sort of higher fat ingredient is really helpful. And with that said, oats actually are a pretty high fat grain which means it's not very fatty, but it blends together well with a little bit of heat. It also kind of acts as an emulsifier and kind of pulls things together a little bit more. Yeah, this is like my favorite thing. I make this so much in the winter because you don't have to have non-dairy milk on hand because you're making your non-dairy milk all at the same time with this. And I keep several cans of diced and whole tomatoes just for this case. And I mean, really, I only did half a batch this time. It's probably enough for 2 giant servings, 2 or 3 servings easily, maybe even 4 small ones, like if you made a sandwich or something like that. Oh, and that's a good point. So Snap Vegan says she doesn't think she didn't soak her almonds for long enough. And here's a trick. And use raw almonds, soy milk, and dates. And that all sounds like it would be great. So what I probably would do is add a little bit of rolled oats to that too. And if you think the nuts aren't quite soaked enough, because you can soak them up to overnight, and if you're going to soak them more than overnight, I'd put them in the fridge for sure. But if you're doing something like this, like I make a not raw almond milk in my electric pressure cooker, and I just cook the raw almonds not soaked with water. And so basically I'm doing double duty. By heating them up, I'm kind of really expediting the soaking process. And that's kind of what we did here. Of course, this is cashews. Cashews and pecans just really blend up quite easily. They're smoother if you soak them a little bit, but I don't find it that necessary. Almonds, hazelnuts, harder nuts like that can definitely use it. Hi, Angela. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming. You've missed a lot, but this will be available for you to watch again. We made basically kind of pumpkin spice frozen coffee in the GoWise heated blender that has a glass case. Yeah, using and this is very similar to using like a multi-cooker, in that you can kind of do a couple of things. Like this, what I like about this blender is because it blends and heats. You can do some things like making the almond milk. So in here, if we use the DIY milk setting, it would bring it to a boil. So we could do that with not soaked almonds and hazelnuts. And it keeps repeating that cycle. And this is creamy tomato soup that's made creamy with cashews and oats. And so this recipe for the creamy tomato soup can be found on healthyslowcooking.com. Just go to the search bar and search tomato soup. This is my favorite winter soup, and it takes no time at all to make. Oh, cool! Congratulations! We all love new blenders. I know I do. So this soup is super easy to make, and if you were using a different blender that gets hot as it progresses, you could do the same thing, but one of the things is this actually has a heating element in it, and that makes it pretty special, and a really thick, heavy-duty glass canister. So once again, many thanks to GoWiseUSA.com for sponsoring this, and I'm going to be getting out of here and eating some creamy tomato soup and drinking my pumpkin spice frozen coffee and just kind of having a relaxing day. So if you guys have some questions, I'll be online after this quite a bit. So just let me know if you have some other questions about this blender, the heating blender, the glass canister, or the recipes, or where to find that. We also talked a little bit about different coffee creamers that you can make at home. And I made kind of this date caramel, one that's just oats, dates, and water, which is kind of interesting. It's an experimental stage right now, but I have high hopes for it. And thank you guys so much for coming out, as always. Leave some questions here, and I will come back and I'll put some of the links to these recipes. Okay? Have a great week. I will see you soon.